Feedback is information students and teachers share during learning so that students can close the gap between their current level of performance and the learning goals. When teachers use an assessment for learning approach, they are not only helping students to learn, they are also helping students to learn how to learn. They are building students' ability to monitor their progress toward achieving a learning goal, using self-assessment or self-feedback to determine where they are and what to do next. They are actually teaching students to become less dependent on the teacher in monitoring their progress. Feedback is a critical skill that students need to successfully engage in peer and self-assessment. When students engage in peer and self-assessment, they know the learning goal, understand what success looks like, provide feedback in their own language, and present alternative perspectives on next steps. However, students need to be taught these assessment skills. You can begin by modeling descriptive feedback and the assessment process.
Okay, as I reviewed the journal assignments, I noticed that you both have a pretty good grasp of the definition section, where you're looking at variables, coefficients, polynomials, monomials, trinomials, etc. However, it seems that you're still having a little bit of difficulty, particularly in subtracting polynomials.
Having students look at exemplars of work together.
First, we're going to look at exemplars of good and maybe journal entries that could improve a little bit. And I'm going to ask you to tell me what makes this journal entry good, what makes this one maybe not so good.
Increasing the use of self-assessment tools such as feedback templates and checklists.
I guess one of the things I learned was to come up with a template for assessment. It starts with the kids writing down a learning goal in their own language, and then the look-fors or the criteria for success on the project, and then while they're working so they can check to see, okay, am I following through with these look-fors I'm supposed to do? And then I give them the feedback and say, okay, which is right directly beside it, comparing what was being looked for to what was actually done. Right. And then the third stage is for them to say what they did to implement my feedback, so they can sort of see it across from the stage of, all right, here's what I was supposed to do, here's what success looks like, here's where I need to improve, and then this is what I did to make those improvements.
Having students work in pairs to peer assess and discuss what and how to improve.
Some of the things were that the layout was good, like the formula was first and then there were steps taken instead of going in front of the answer quickly. And there was a diagram to show, to make sure that the reader understands what the shape is and what the volume is, like what the formula is actually talking about, so the reader doesn't get confused.
What they could have done for the diagram is they could have labeled each side, because if you say base, like you know it's the bottom one, but like the sides and stuff you can't actually tell. So if they like labeled each of the face, you could tell like what exactly they're talking about.
Using strategies such as traffic lighting to self-assess their work against the criteria for success. Students use a green, yellow, or red traffic light to indicate their level of understanding.
If you kind of get it and you're still having trouble in some areas, just put a yellow circle. And if you really understand everything, then just put a green circle at the top. And that means you're ready to go to the next lesson, okay? When the students were doing the stoplight exercise with the math journals, I really noticed that they really just stopped for a second. And I think that pause there helps them a lot to sort of, okay, what do I really understand? What do I not really understand? And because of that pause, normally they don't do that, so they just get right into the work. But because they had to think about which color they had to put onto the paper, they stopped. And I think that was very effective.
So at that pause, it shows that they are doing some self-assessment and they're thinking about their own learning in a way that's constructive, stepping outside the actual task and thinking, okay, how am I learning? How am I approaching this? Which is just perfectly.
Encouraging students to act on feedback for homework with home support.
Julia, good. Nicole?
having students maintain a feedback or learning log to monitor their progress.
The second part of the assessment is a little bit different. It will involve a journal assignment, and it's just a short journal assignment consisting of 2 questions. The first question is, how well did you understand the concepts behind adding and subtracting polynomial expressions, giving specific examples, and the second part is, what do you still have difficulty with?
Asking students to complete an exit card at the end of a lesson. Using exit cards, students assess their progress towards the learning goal by commenting on what they have learned and what they still need to learn.